Welcome to the Merch Minds podcast, where we discuss everything about the Merch by Amazon business and the print-on-demand industry. Here are your hosts, Glen and Yong.
What's up, everybody? Glen with Hustler Hacks here with Yong, episode number 22, Merch Minds podcast, with a very special guest today, right, Yong?
Absolutely, man. I think this is, I respect and admire and all our previous guests, but today is a very special one, because he's someone that I've been following in the industry for a very long time. And so, we're not going to get too much into our numbers this week because we did spend a little, extra time with our guest, Jeff Finley. Want to tell the people who Mr. Finley is, Glenn?
So Jeff is a graphic designer. He started his own business recently. He's done t-shirts for different bands and brands, talking about Nike, bands like Metallica. Crazy stuff. And he has a great portfolio. We talk a little bit about his website and his new brand and everything like that. But just great advice too when you're talking about designing t-shirts, come up with your own brand, having a passion, coming up with marketing, different techniques, and just a lot of good stuff in this interview.
Yeah, no, it's a great interview, and we'll definitely talk about it towards the end as well. But so he's the author of the book Threads Not Dead. He originally published this book back in 2011. I bought this book.
Hardcover, big book.
Yes, it's right here in my hand. I bought this book a few years ago, and I swear to you, man, this, some people actually travel with a Bible. This book, considering, is considered the Bible of the industry apparel. I kid you not, Glenn. It goes with me everywhere. No joke. Seriously, I pack it with my back. It goes in my backpack. It travels with me everywhere. I highly recommend that you guys pick up a copy for yourself. In fact, a lot of the stuff that Glenn and I talk about comes from this book. So, for those of you guys who are constantly asking questions and stuff like that, a lot of our advice comes from this book. So I highly recommend that you guys pick up a copy.
And this isn't even like a brand new book or anything, or like a book that someone's specifically talking about merch. This is just being like, just major aspects of being a t-shirt designer.
Absolutely.
And creating a new brand, or designing t-shirts for different clients, how to build that, what people expect, and not just about merch. This book has been around for a while, but just full of content that has lasted and still good for many years.
It's very relevant. So let's get right into the interview. All right, today we have a really special guest. I'm really, really excited about today's show. He's someone that I follow, someone that I look up to, and he's an artist, he's a designer, and he's an author, and we'll get into that book real quick. Welcome to the show, Jeff Finley.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, please tell us about yourself and tell us what you do, and we'll get right to it.
Cool. So, my name is Jeff Finley, and I'm the author of the book Threads Not Dead, The Designer's Guide to the Apparel Industry. And I wrote that book, 5 or 6 years ago. I was working for Go Media, which was a graphic design illustration agency. I was part owner. And so I kind of got, and during that time, I was doing a ton of t-shirt design. I was really involved in the t-shirt design community, and, it was doing band merch and independent clothing company design was just like my cup of tea. So right around that era, I just felt like I needed to put everything I knew from my experience into the book, and then interview all of my peers in the t-shirt design scene, and kind of put together the ultimate guide for independent clothing artists and stuff like that. And now what I'm doing is I have my own clothing. Well, it's really just a small patch and pin line called Starseed Supply Co. And I sell that on Etsy. It's kind of a little side project. Right now I'm doing some traveling and other things like that, and kind of make a passive income from some of the books I've written. So kind of a few different irons in the fire, and I'm kind of transitioning into what I'm going to do next. I'm not quite sure what that's going to be yet, but that's where I'm at right now.
Absolutely. And on this podcast, just to let you know, Jeff, we only promote products and services that Glenn and I personally use.
Mhm.
And as you can see, I do have the book in my hand. I bought this book years ago, and it's not me, it's not Jeff, it's not Glenn that says this, but this book, correct me if I'm wrong, is considered the Bible of the apparel industry, correct?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. If you read the Amazon reviews, that's what people tell you.
Yeah. So if this is considered the Bible, I think it's pretty much fair to say you are God of the apparel industry. And I don't know if people can see Jeff, but I am bowing down to you as we speak. We are speaking to God himself of the apparel industry, and I'm just so excited. Glenn, do you have any questions for Jeff before we get started?
There's just a lot in this book that still holds up, today, even though you said you wrote it a couple of years ago, and there's just so much to it. I don't even know, I guess, where to start on front. I guess just different things from the book. Maybe we can just kind of talk about that still hold up today. One of the things that that was just like straight from the beginning was the 3 roles of being an artist, designer, and entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like, can you talk a little bit more, I guess, a little bit about your your 3 roles when you're creating t-shirt designs?
Gosh, so why don't you go ahead and recap those 3 rules for me? It's been a while.
And well, I guess like when I was reading it, I was like, as an artist, I guess you talk a little bit about you can also be an artist as far as like art of persuasion, art of is there examples, art of picking up chicks, or different things like that. And then a designer, you're designing with a purpose, to sell your product, brand's identity. And of course, entrepreneur is more of like the marketing, putting yourself out there type of thing. So,
okay, so you've got the artist and the designer and the entrepreneur. You have like these 3 aspects, which are kind of all part of you, so to speak. And so your artist is kind of like your right brain, your imagination, your creative part, and then your designer part is the one you got to solve the problems and actually create a product to sell, and you're communicating a message a lot of times. And the entrepreneur is okay, I got to hustle. I got to get this in front of customers. I want people to buy it, and I want to, it's not just creating for me anymore. It's creating for other people. So you're a little bit of a businessman too. So you got the artist, the designer, and the businessman. It kind of all works together. And if you're just an artist and you don't like the other stuff, then you're going to probably have a hard time running a t-shirt design company. And if you're just a businessman, you'll probably need to hire out, your creative and all that kind of stuff. But this book is kind of geared towards the jack of all trades, the one who wants to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did the business side kind of come easy to you, or did you kind of have to work at it or find different things? Was it interesting to you? Because I know pretty much artists, I mean, that's really what you want to do is just sit down and design. Like, you're not really thinking about the whole business part. Did that come naturally, or how did that work?
I come from a DIY punk rock background where I kind of despised business owners in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to be an artist. I just wanted to be a designer and make cool shit. That's kind of and then when I got partnered up with Go Media, like I was very fortunate because my partners Bill and Wilson were much more of the business side of things than I was. So I learned a lot from them, and I knew that, okay, how does a band start out and make some money? They got to make some CDs and make some merch and go play shows. So it's kind of like the bare bones. What do you got to do to make some money, to keep your stuff afloat? That's really where I specialized, and I just did what I needed to do. I didn't really like doing the business part, I loved doing the creative part. And I did like doing the marketing because I thought it was cool to like learn how to self-promote, kind of get the word out. I was a little bit of an attention whore back then, so that was an enjoyable time too.
Wow, that's awesome. So, so we have on average, Jeff, over 1,000 downloads per week, and Glenn and I, we get messages all the time, and I swear to you, this is the God honest truth. A lot of the information that I share with people it comes from the book. I mean, Jeff talks about everything from as he mentioned, from designing, but you also talk about parity and fair use, and that's a very touchy topic because I've talked about it in the past on this show, and I've only shared what my instructor in college told me, but you have a completely different view about parody and fair use. Would you mind sharing your experience with that?
Yeah, so like I said, I kind of come from the DIY culture where people just do it and then ask questions later. Or, they just do it and then apologize later or take it down later if they get in trouble for it. It's kind of, like I see so many bands and so many independent artists, they'll just riff off of pop culture and make parodies. I know that Glen and Yong, he was a designer for Ilthy apparel in Cleveland. He did so much. He got famous by riffing off of the Cleveland Cavaliers and Delonte West and LeBron James. He did little illustrations of them. It's his own individual creation, but they're public figures. So I think you can kind of get away with it. You're not stealing somebody's intellectual property. You're creating a creative statement based on a popular culture meme. So I think you can get away with taking things that are in pop culture and putting your own spin on it. Now, however, if you take it gets a little sketchy when you take like a Disney character like Mickey Mouse or something and put that on your T-shirt, and the only thing you did to it was maybe put a hat on it or something. That's a little sketchy. I mean, you can probably put it out there. You're going to start selling it, but then as soon as you get discovered, you might get a takedown notice or have the Disney's legal team come after you for a cease and desist. So. But I think if you're small time, you're probably just going to get a slap on the wrist. It's only if you start taking this where you're selling tens of thousands, and you're that's when you kind of really run the risk, and you want to make sure you got all your legal bases covered. But for the most small time independent artists, you can get away with a lot of fair use, which is just taking something and kind of putting your own spin on it. You always want to put your own spin on it, and don't just blatantly steal anything. Right,
and that's pretty much what my instructor at the university told us. And that was pretty much something that I shared with our listeners. And I've gotten a lot of criticism saying, "Oh, you're wrong." And I'm like, "Hey, I get it, man. Hey, I might be wrong, but I'm just relaying what I was taught in college." But
what did they teach you?
So my instructor, by the way, if you guys want to criticize me, email him instead. I hate receiving messages saying you're wrong. Joe Miller at San Jose State University pretty much said, you can use it, but you probably want to, mix it up a little bit and just make it so that people know that it's you and that you're not coming across as being the original brand.
Yeah. So why do people tell you you're wrong with that? What's their argument?
Oh, they're saying, "Oh, you're wrong," and you're giving out false information. They never really got into details. I've received a few emails saying that I was wrong, and I'm like, hey, I'm only relaying what I learned in college. So, but yeah, your book, like Glenn mentioned earlier, it was originally published in 2011, and it was way ahead of its time. I mean, I would say 98% of the stuff in here is still relevant. I mean, you covered just about everything from designing, marketing, and you cover e-commerce. And this is how advanced this book was. Glenn, you obviously done fulfillment by Amazon. This book was published 6 years ago. I don't know if you read that part, Glenn. He talks about FBA. Did you know?
Oh yeah, yes, I did.
Yeah. But you said you never done FBA, huh, Jeff? Fulfillment by Amazon?
I never did. No, I never did. I actually work with Amazon a little bit through their ebook stuff, Kindle. I sell my books through Amazon through Kindle. That works really well. I've never sold physical products that I had to ship out, or I've never done their merch on demand. That's new to me. That didn't exist when I wrote the book.
Yeah,
but I knew that they had. I knew that individual sellers could set up shop on Amazon and get the stuff fulfilled by Amazon, but I never tried it myself.
Yeah, no. I mean, people have made a fortune doing FBA because obviously Amazon being the biggest e-commerce store in the world, people have just made a fortune. So, it might be something that you might want to get into at some point. I know since, you do have your own products, something you might want to consider.
I think it'd be great. I mean, I use Etsy right now, which is really great for the small patches and stuff. It kind of sells itself on there. But I imagine it would do the same on Amazon.
Yeah. I mean,
it's so searchable, and
you definitely get a lot more traffic for your products.
So I wanted to. Sorry about going back to like the because I know no one really wants to talk about the the copyright
Nobody
trademark
wants
type
to.
of stuff. And you talked about Ilthy, which I'm like familiar with the brand. I actually emailed him, I think like Glen and Fonte probably like 5 years ago or something. Because I was asking him questions about, because I totally remember all the Cavs stuff, and I was like wondering if he was even able to like sell, because even though they're like cartoony, it still has like a likeness. So I was kind of like, man, is that still possible? I'm a big fan of like Kyle Crawford, like Electric Zombie. You know, he has great work. You mentioned like Fright Rags, like the story that they had in your book, as far as like, I think New Line Cinema, I think, came after him, and then later on Universal Studios with like a Frankenstein likeness. And he was saying on there they wanted like 5 figures, you know, for the past, I guess, sales on his shirts, which I know wasn't even like a huge, I don't think he really even sold that much compared to how much they wanted. But it does get kind of crazy when you're talking about copyright and all of that. Do you have any personal stories or anything might have happened to you or someone, of course, close to you, maybe like very similar, coming from that whole art and designing?
No, you know, we never had any copyright claims. Well, actually, no, I take that back. We did. We, you know, with Go Media, we sold stock illustrations, stock vector art. And a lot of times when we're creating stock artwork, we'll go on Google Images and grab reference photos of like a shark or something, and then trace it and draw our own illustration on top of it, black and white, using the shark photograph essentially as a reference. But the likeness was too close in some cases.
Yeah.
We got a letter in the mail from the photographer, the lawyer representing the photographer of this particular shark. He wanted several $1,000s and for us to take it down. And if we didn't comply, he was going to take us to court, and it could be a lot more. Now, the easiest thing for us to do is be like, okay, we'll take it down. And then we agreed to pay it because they had a pretty good case. And we didn't know that the designer that we had who made it used a copyrighted image, or, you know. So this was a very hard lesson learned, to not use Google Images, and then, especially if you're taking another person's photograph and then just illustrating on top of it and selling that artwork. They want, especially when you're reselling it as your own, you know. So that was when we got busted for something like that. That was a tough lesson.
And was it kind of like a silhouette at first, and then just what if it was just a silhouette? Do you think it would have been a little bit more safer, I guess?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think if it's just a silhouette and then you're really just talking about the outline of a shark.
Yeah.
Like I imagine some lawyers would probably think like, oh, I'm going to go hit up that creative agency and tell them to pay me money. Kind of like a extortion in a way.
Yeah.
Even though if we did go to court, maybe they wouldn't find it even. It's like, oh, it's not even close. It's not going to, the reason why they're selling it has nothing to do with your photograph. It has just it's a shark silhouette. It's generic. Now, the thing is, you want to get away from that. You change some subtle details, you know, reverse it, put the fin on the other side, you know, do some stupid stuff like that. You can get away with it. But, you know, there are people out there that want to come after you and take down and just kind of extort. That's how they make a living too.
Right. Can you, I guess, share some of the, I guess, listeners, I guess, some of the brands and bands that you've designed for?
Oh, this is going to be nice.
Well, when I was working at Go Media and freelancing, I did, you know, t-shirt designs for like Metallica, Mastodon, even up to Brittany Spears and Fergie. But my favorite work was for like the independent bands, you know, the like Bridge and Tunnel. And I did work for Fest, which was a punk rock, you know, festival down in Gainesville, Florida. I love doing work for them. And the independent clothing brands, I think we've done work for Nike and some of these other, and Warner Brothers Records and those things. But, you know, those are done through different agencies, and they're nice names to put in your client roster. But the independent brands I used to like working with was like Declaration Clothing, Ascend Apparel. I did some work for Fright Rags.
Okay.
Yeah, we did a Phenomena t-shirt with the Dario Argento. He was the film director for that. One of my favorite movies. And Eraserhead was the t-shirt, a film t-shirt that I got to do for them. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff you might see at Hot Topic on the walls, you know, for a lot of the bands in the mid 2000s is we did work for. We worked for Now, the reason how we got those is we worked for the merchandising companies that represented those bands. So you had Bravado USA, you had Global Merch, you had FEA Merch. All these different organizations represented rock and roll, emo, and punk rock and metal bands, and they farmed out the T-shirt designs to several different freelancers and agencies like Kyle Crawford and several people at MTs. So we kind of got in the pool where we were one of those artists that was, contributing to that. So that was a good time.
Yeah, you talk about like the pros and cons of that, and like Kyle has talked about a lot of that stuff in his blogs, and that I've always been reading about it. That I guess like as a graphic design student, that was like one of my like dream things, like creating like designs and like especially like that for different bands and stuff, because you always see them, and I always wonder like, man, I wonder who created that. Like, I wonder how long it took to do that. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that no one really cares to think about when you see these things, at, let's say, Hot Topic, you see them online. But like, I'm like, man, like that's so much work, so detailed on it.
Yeah.
And you talk about some of the pros and cons that like, the pros is like big opportunities, maybe get paid more. But some of the cons that like Kyle has talked about too is that sometimes you may not even get paid right away for some of this stuff. And that's like big time work, a lot of hours. I guess any random experiences during that time?
Yeah. I've got a couple funny stories. Well, so when you work with these merch companies, they often have a specific pay rate that they want to pay you. You don't get as much say over how much you get paid as you do with other clients. When you work with a big agency, they want to pay like $250 a t-shirt design. And then if they don't choose it, maybe there's like a $100 kill fee or a $50 kill fee. So that way the designer does get paid something, even if the design isn't chosen. But a lot of it is contingent upon approval. So you might be working for free until they approve it. Now, that's risky for the designer. It's obviously in your client's best interest, the merch company's best interest, to work with a dozen different graphic designers and then only pay for what they like. That's not fair for the graphic designer.
Exactly.
Now, the only problem with that is there's hundreds of graphic designers that are willing to do this work for these famous bands because they want to be associated with it. They want the opportunity to do, to flex their illustration muscles and to draw something cool and have it associated with one of their favorite bands. So they'll do it for free. So you get a lot of the up and coming artists that want to be contributors to this scene. Yeah. And then you'll see a lot of the veteran artists who've been doing it for a while. They start to get too expensive. It starts to get kind of grind on their workload. They're a little bit jaded. So they end up kind of falling out of favor. And then where the merchandising company will want to go back and hire the cheaper designers again and even say goodbye to some of their more experienced, better designers who've got world-class talent, but they'll be passed over because they're too expensive or, so it's like kind of it's a lot like the music industry, right? It's like they like to have the up and coming artists and to support them. Now, I'll tell you a funny story. I kind of fucked up here in this case. So this is an embarrassing moment. One of our merchandising companies that we worked with, he was known for being kind of a dick. He was just strict on his feedback. He was short went in his requests. It's like he didn't bullshit around, and he didn't really treat us with the respect that we thought we deserved. Now, but he did pay us well, and he was consistent. So it's like we kind of put up with it. Yeah. Now, I had another designer email me and ask me, hey, I'm thinking about working with this agency. What do you think of him? And so I was like, well, I'll give him my honest feedback. So I told this designer, he's good, he pays well, but sometimes he's kind of a dick, and I gave him my honest feedback. Now, I replied to him, but I did not realize I accidentally CC'd him, my client, on this email.
Wow.
Now, the reason that happened is because I had typed into my email to kind of get the email address for my client so I can pass it along to this designer who was emailing me. And I forgot to delete it out of there.
Oh, wow.
I ended up CCing him. Now, I didn't know that until he wrote me back and was like, thanks for the feedback, Jeff. I'm sorry I can be a dick, but I appreciate the honest feedback, and I'll try to be better next time. I was like, whoa.
Whoa, there you go.
Wait, so did it work out in your favor? I mean, did he change at all?
It did. I feel like he had more respect for me.
All right. Well, then, the lesson here is then CC your boss and tell them that they're a dick.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, think about this. If you're getting mistreated, you're getting lack of respect. Sometimes you need to say, "Stop being a dick," and then they say, "Oh shit, yeah, you just called me out." Because that's how he acts to his bands. That's how he acts to his designers. He kind of acts like a dick. So sometimes you act like how they act to you, you can act like that to them, and then they kind of get in line and they have respect for you, and who knows, it could work out in your favor.
That is true.
Maybe you thought it wasn't an accident, and you purposely was like, oh man, this guy's calling me out.
Yeah, this guy's tough.
Yeah,
he don't mess around.
That's exactly what he thought. But I was so mortified because I'm like, I like to be nice to my clients. I never want to say anything bad about them. So I was really embarrassed, but fortunately.
Oh man, that's funny. That's funny. That's a great story.
Yeah.
So are you still, I mean, I know you mentioned your Etsy store. Now, are you still actively designing shirts?
No, not really. I kind of got out of doing t-shirt design. I just haven't had any. I did a t-shirt design last fall for Rigid Tools. That was a cool project. That was probably the last t-shirt design I've done. I haven't done much t-shirt design lately.
Okay, is that something?
I stopped listening to music too much.
Oh, really?
I'm listening to audiobooks now. I'm podcasts.
You know what? I'm the same way. I kind of stopped listening to music. I'm more of a podcast and audiobooks guy myself. But I mean, is it something that you want to get back into? Maybe.
I do. Yeah, I want to get back into doing shirts, but for my own brand. So I've got Starseed Supply Co. And it's kind of goods and wearables for metaphysical nerds with a little new age spin, spiritual, but with a kind of a punk rock twist. I wanted to do that, but do t-shirts. But doing t-shirts myself, I'm like, man, this is expensive. How does everybody do this?
Yeah, well, I think since the book's been published, things have obviously changed. I mean, everyone is going to DTG, print on demand. Companies that you mentioned, like in the book, like Zazzle, Cafe Press, but it's expanded so much now. There's Redbubble, and I've obviously mentioned Merch by Amazon in my email to you, and that's what people are doing. And they're now, I mean, it's gotten so crazy, right? They're now integrating Shopify with Amazon so they can get their products on Amazon. I mean, it's gotten crazy out there. Yeah, so it's something that you might want to look into, because I think with your talent and your skills, I mean, I think you can really branch out. Yeah,
I have several designs that I've put on t-shirts that I just haven't pulled the trigger on, because I'm going to Jack Prince or Real Thread, and I'm like, can I really afford to get 100 of these shirts and have them stored in my house to do all of my manual? I like to do the manual shipping because I like to package it the way I want to.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I like to do that. I like to create a custom, put a little note in there, put some goodies in there. Like, I like the personal touch with shipping out my own orders. But once I go on Society 6 or Redbubble or Zazzle or that, and I don't have control over the garment as much. I mean, I like to print on American Apparel tri-blends, which is super expensive. It's my favorite shirt to print on. And I know that there's alternatives like Canvas, and I don't know, there's a few other brands that have real close to that tri-blend, super soft feel. That's my issue. I just like the expensive shirts. But I feel like if I go to the direct to garment, they just don't have the quality. I mean, unless it's improved a lot. I like to use the water-based ink and the soft hand. Those are my favorite t-shirts. The stuff that I've had done DTG or direct to garment, I might wear that shirt for a few different times before it's kind of like, I just never put it on again. Yeah, I never put it on again. I just don't like to wear it.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I think their printer, they just, at least for my designs, I like to keep it very simple to like 1 or 2 colors, because I really don't think their printers can really, I guess, handle a lot of, like, especially some of the stuff, full color, great looking design. I don't think they can really handle a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, and from my experience, the printing on black shirts was always an issue, especially if you're doing color on black shirts. It doesn't come out the same. It's not going to turn out to be like that nice, soft, integrated design you would find at the mall or something like that. But I don't know. I think I might be good to test it out at least, just to put these designs out there. And because people want to buy the design on a shirt. People have already told me they want to do it. So that's a good sign, is when your customers are telling you they want it on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Now, if I can just say, all right, I'll go ahead and do it on a print-on-demand site and see how it goes, test the quality, and kind of go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Better than not doing it.
Okay. Have you heard about American Apparel and them shutting down?
Yeah, what's the story with that? I don't know the details. I only kind of heard through the grapevine. What's up with that?
Yeah, so they well you know the whole backstory behind American Apparel, right? With the CEO, the guy was pretty shady. He has
I knew he was shady. Yeah.
Yeah, he has a pretty he has a pretty bad history, but finally they went to their second bankruptcy and they were bought out by Gildan, which is a Canadian company, and I always joke that they are no longer American Apparel; they're now the Canadian Apparel.
Yeah.
And no, I just wanted your opinion and your feedback on them, because I know you mentioned American Apparel as one of your top choices when it comes to apparel.
Well, out of all the garments that I have worn from these different brands, the American Apparel Tri-Blend specifically was my favorite shirt.
Mm.
Now, I do have like the Next Level Tri-Blend and the Canvas Tri-Blend are really close competitors to that. And now, ethically, I would prefer not to use American Apparel because of their shadiness. And
correct. Same here.
They're sort of exploitative brand. I don't really like it. But I would go ahead and go with the Canvas or the Next Level or the Tultex, to get the Tri-Blend. I would go with that. That's what I would do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Glenn, questions?
What do you think? I guess so. Talking about your new brand, Starseed Supply, and I guess comparing it to when you worked, I guess mostly on T-shirts and all that. What would you say? I guess it's kind of like the thing that you can do now to, if someone wanted to start their own brand as well, to like get their name out there, to get some eyes, get some people looking at it, and of course you want them to purchase it. But I guess any advice that you would give to anybody that wants to start their own brand?
Yeah, well, Starseed came from like my little subculture. So the things that I was really passionate about, things I knew a lot about that were impactful in my life, I didn't see anybody else doing, making shirts of stuff that I was interested in. And I would go to New Age, like metaphysical expos type stuff, and the stuff that they would sell there was super corny, kind of targeted towards middle-aged women. That was little like namaste yogi dudes.
Oh, okay.
And I was not into that. Yeah. I wanted so I saw other brands that were doing like the patches and pin thing, and I fell in love with that. So I'm like, I'm gonna make patches and pins for my scene, so for the things that I'm passionate about. So I just it came from a very personal and authentic place, and I knew what the message was going to be. So it's like the Starseed specifically is a person that has woken up to their cosmic consciousness and are in touch with their past lives and all that kind of business. And so if I made cool like flair for people to express that part of their personality that they may feel afraid to express because people would think they're a little weird, but put these little badges on your denim jacket or something like that. So when someone recognizes it, they feel like, oh, that person gets me. I know I can have a conversation with them. So then it kind of creates an icebreaker between people. So my advice would be to take what you're already passionate about, your specific love, and then create the merch that goes along with it. Like, so you have a store, you've got a brand, or you've got a community or an idea, and then you're just creating the merch that goes along with that idea. The designs themselves don't have to be awesome. They don't have to be fully illustrated or even really detailed. Some of it can just be text. I mean, it's really just about that authentic brand that you want to create around your passions and around your scene. That's the way I personally like to do it. I know some people like to try to take a popular topic, a trend, and then jump on it and capitalize on it. So like right now, there's like Donald Trump, and there's all this patriotism kind of going on. You can jump on the patriotism bandwagon or jump on the anti-Trump bandwagon, and kind of create a brand around that. But it may not have staying power or something you're personally passionate about. It's going to last for years.
Yeah, I could see that kind of dying out probably. You know, once it kind of dies out, you probably die out with it because you don't have a passion for it. That's one of the things I try to tell people also when it comes
Be
to,
passionate.
yeah, when it comes to like creating a YouTube channel or anything like that. You know, you have to be passionate about it or it's not going to work. And I guess in your case, as far as selling patches and everything with Etsy, did you find yourself bringing in traffic through Instagram, or was it kind of organic or word of mouth, or?
Well, fortunately, Etsy has great search, and I was kind of going along real slow through Instagram. I used Instagram and Etsy, and then my Facebook and Twitter, which it didn't really seem to do much at all through my social media.
Okay.
I got most of my traffic through Etsy itself.
Oh,
And
wow.
I saw a big change when I figured out how to actually use the Etsy SEO. So when I changed my titles to be more SEO friendly, I wrote a lot in my descriptions and, put in authentic, real keywords. That's when I started seeing just like organic traffic, because I kept getting favorites on all my products. Like I would get several a day, for each product. And some of these have thousands of favorites. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm not even marketing these things. They're just like, people are searching for patches and stuff on Etsy. And then, then my stuff gets favorited. It gets found in the search results. So it's super organic. And then, of course, I do Instagram and Facebook. And that's pretty much all the marketing I do. And it does trot along. I bet you if I went crazy and, put a lot more time into it, I bet you I could sell a lot more. But right now I'm in a comfortable spot. So
yeah, okay.
But going back to what you said, Jeff, and like I said earlier, it seems like 90% of the stuff that I preach, it all comes from your book. So I highly recommend everyone go and pick out a copy for yourself, because when you're asking me questions, I'm literally getting stuff out from Jeff's book. But going back to what you said earlier, and trust me, it's right here in my notes. I've read your book thoroughly. You specifically said, there's still a market for simpler and more graphic-based tees. So, and that's something Glenn and I always preach. You don't have to be some, the modern Van Gogh. You could just keep it simple. Some of my best-selling shirts, and I've said this hundreds of times, are just text-based T-shirts.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of sad if you're an artist who wants to be an awesome illustrator, and you're like, these fucking text-based T-shirts. Like, one of my best-selling patches was just this little rectangle that had the word empath in it.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to I wanted to make an illustration with it. But like, I have a patch called clairvoyant, and that means like someone who has psychic visions. But I created like this eye with all these like rays coming out of it, and I had this ornate type that said clairvoyant underneath it. Now I sell a moderate amount of those things, but I'm starting to think, man, if I just left the illustration off of it and just had the word clairvoyant, I'd probably sell more.
Oh wow!
Kind of makes it particular, Like someone wants to put it on their jacket, they're going to make it represent themselves. They might not agree with the illustration, but they will agree with the word, the idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the book ends with a bunch of case studies and interviews, and after reading all those, there's three things that kind of pops out, at least to me, Glenn. And Glenn, you tell me if you agree or not. But in most of the case studies and interviews, I pretty much get the message that you should be unique, you should be passionate, and you should hustle. Glenn, would you agree?
Definitely. All three of those.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sorry.
My opinion about that. So unique, passionate, and hustle. Now, you're going to have a hard time hustling, and you're going to have a hard time being passionate if you're not coming from your authentic place. Like if you are wrapped up in your ego, if you're wrapped up in trying to be cool, if you're wrapped up in trying to sell without being truthful to yourself, it's got to come from, this is a very spiritual concept. It's got to come from your connection to God or whatever that is, your spirit. Like, and that's what's going to shine through. And it's going to make you have the energy to hustle and the energy to be passionate. Because I've tried hustling on stuff I'm not passionate about, and it feels like a chore. It feels like work, and it's no fun.
Yeah.
When I'm doing something I love, like I'll stay up all night, and I'm like, I don't even feel like I'm working, but I'm working because I love doing it. So find that little part, and then tap into that energy.
Yeah, no, and that's something that I've always said. It's if you enjoy what you're doing, it's not work. And yeah, no, I completely agree with you 100%. So Jeff, I know I promised you 45 minutes or so, and I'm a man of my word. I know you're super busy. Glenn, if you have any last comments or questions, this is your opportunity.
I thought everything went good. I mean, I asked all the stuff that I wanted to ask, and I thought everything was good.
Yeah. So, Jeff, before we go, how can people get a hold of you? Please tell us about. I mean, if you have a website, social media. I know you mentioned your Etsy store.
Yeah. So my main website is jefffinley.org. That's 3 F's in the middle there. And then Starseed Supply Co. is my patches and pin brand. You find that on Etsy. And my other project is Starbound Renegade. It's just the music that I work on. So solo
Okay, cool.
electronic music.
And I'll have all that in the show notes. Jeff, are you still in Cleveland?
I'm living in Northeast Ohio at the moment. I just spent a year in Austin, and I'm going to go travel over to Germany and hang out in Europe for a while. So I don't have a home right now.
Okay. Well, hey, I don't know when you're going to be back in the States, man, but when you do come back, let us know. We would love to have you back on the show, and I would love to meet up with you and buy you a beer and pick your brain more, man.
That sounds good, man.
Okay. But thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Good talking to you guys.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
See ya.
What a great interview with Jeff Finley. Again, someone that I look up to and follow in the industry. Glenn, what did you think of Mr. Jeff Finley?
He's just an awesome dude, and coming from like the designer background and everything, like he pretty much did what I wanted to do when I was going to school. Like I thought about designing for different pop culture things and like bands and stuff like that. NFL, NBA was something I really wanted to get into, and it's just crazy the different designs he's done. You can see his portfolio too on his website. He's done a lot of good stuff.
Great portfolio.
And yeah, and he's done a lot of good stuff. And one of the things that we really didn't get to talk about, but in part of his book, he has like 11 character traits of successful designers. And one of them really stood out to me was like number 4, which was willingness to share knowledge. Successful designers are often writing about their experience, sharing tips, answering questions, and helping others. And that's exactly what not only something that me and Yong want to do and are doing as far as this podcast goes, but Facebook group, as well, and even a YouTube channel, helping, other people hustle out there, make money, share tips, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's all fun and game, but like I said, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be really passionate. I mean, it's
about what you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to make money, but I mean, but at the same time, be passionate about it, and just have a good balance in life overall. But again, I mean, just a great guy, and I'm so grateful that he had agreed to be on the show. And just to kind of cover our own ass, again, we briefly talked about the whole parity and fair use, something that he agrees with me and what I learned in college. But again, unfortunately for Amazon, that goes out the window because we don't know what Amazon goes by. So just remember that when you're designing for Amazon. And but Glenn, where can people find you?
You can find me hustlerhacks.com, hustlerhacks on YouTube, and you can email me if you have any questions, hustlerhacks1@gmail.com.
And you guys can find me at my new website, geekhustle.com, or you can email me at yong@geekhustle.com. Also, if you go to my website, sign up for my newsletter, I give a lot of tips on design exclusively through email, so make sure you sign up for that. Otherwise, next week we have another special guest, and that's something that I'm looking forward to. But other than that, man, hey, Glenn, it's always great catching up with you, and I'll see you next week.
See you next week.